สวัสดีครับผมออสครับสวัสดีผู้ชมทุกคนนะครับวันนี้ผมมีโอกาสพิเศษเลยนะครับวันนี้ผมอยู่ที่สตูดิโออินพาร์ควันนี้ผมมีโอกาสดีครับจะได้สัมภาษณ์คุณพีท Thorn Hi Pete
Hey
how you doing
Great to meet you I'm good
Good
Yeah pleasure
Yeah I will have like 30-40 minutes talking about your story about you exactly
I'm on it
All right yeah.
Thank you
How do you get to know and play guitar
Well I was originally I started on violin So, and this is when I was maybe 9 years old. And I don't know, I just had an interest in music from a pretty early age. But there was a kid that moved into my neighborhood and I made friends with. He was a great musician. He was just a few years older than me. And he played guitar and keys. And I was, enamored with this guy because he could play so many instruments. I was like, whoa. And so that blew me away at a young age. I was maybe 9 or 10 by that point. And so he showed me a few chords on the guitar and he also introduced me to a whole bunch of music like The Who and, Led Zeppelin and Frank Zappa and all kinds of the Beatles. I really started collecting records at that point because he was also just really into music. So I was buying Beatles records and just collecting music and really getting into music at that like magic age when you're in your getting into your teen years. And yeah, it just became my thing. I just became obsessed with it. He showed me the chords to I Can't Explain by The Who, and and I learned those power chords and that's it. I was hooked. So that's how I got into it.
Since 9, right?
Yeah, I was
Since
maybe
9,
10.
around like 9, 10.
I was maybe 10 then when I first started learning my first chords and stuff. And then my sister had a guitar. She was learning guitar at school, in high school. So she had a classical guitar that she had brought home. And I can remember stealing it from her and like taking it in my room and learning whatever I could. And 6 months later, my parents bought me a guitar. And it was an electric.
Acoustic one?
Electric, yeah.
Electric one.
It's actually on the guitar on the cover of my first album, Guitar Nerd. It's like a blue sort of Strat copy.
That's the one.
That's the one, yeah.
That's the one.
So I had that guitar and a little 10-watt trainer amp and an overdrive pedal. And I was like off and running.
Any inspiration? Like the artists or?
Certainly in the beginning, it was, like I say, Pete Townshend is my first guitar hero that I can remember having. I just loved his sort of aggressive rhythmic rock and roll style. It was just so, I don't know, powerful.
The stage performance and the thing.
Yeah, he was so, like with the windmills and everything. Yeah,
windmill.
Super cool to me. But then quickly thereafter, my sister was really into hard rock, and so she was listening to like Black Sabbath and Ozzy, and I heard AC/DC then, and Thin Lizzy, and lots of bands like that.
Like 70s.
Yeah, this is like very early 80s. So like, this would be 81 or something like that. 81. Yeah, and then it was like an explosion of rock and roll at that point too. I mean, you had Van Halen, and that quickly like blew me away. And so he was always like one of my favorites. Yeah. And
also Hendrix too. I think you.
Yeah, I like Hendrix. I kind of grew to appreciate Hendrix more later. Yeah, because like it was this, I was kind of like into the hard rock sort of heavy metal sounds, I guess. And Hendrix, I kind of didn't, he's so dynamic and kind of a little bit more nuanced than the sounds I was listening to then. So then I grew to appreciate Hendrix later. It was like, oh, this is amazing. And kind of maybe through Stevie Ray Vaughan. Because Stevie Ray Vaughan was obviously a disciple of Hendrix, really, a student of Hendrix. I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then I grew to go backwards and listen to where he really came from, with the other blues players, B.B. King and Albert King, and certainly Jimi Hendrix. So
you're still practicing these days?
Yeah, I mean, my practice these days is always about some job that I've got coming up. So it seems like I've got to learn like 20 songs for something, for a tour or something. So then I sit down and do an intense period where I'm learning. So that's practice.
No, it's not about techniques, right? It's all about like...
Not so much, although I love to sit down every now and then and work on that because it reminds me of when guitar for me wasn't, it's still obviously super fun and I love it and I'm obsessed with it, but it's also the way I make my living. And, I've got obligations and things I have to learn, so that comes first. But when I sit down and I work on some technique or a video that I see on YouTube or something, that has nothing to do with my job, it's just like, whoa, that blows me away, I have to know how to do that. It reminds me of being 10 again or 11 in those times when I would just, nothing else. I didn't need to make money, I didn't need to, have a job, and guitar was just about the sheer fascination with, well, I want my hands to make those sounds, you know. Yeah.
You know, as we all know, that you are one of the best like influencers in YouTube.
Thank you.
Yep. And I just want to know, how do you get the good sound, the best sound out of the pedal that the auto pedal makers sent you?
You have to, maybe the first thing is you have to know what to plug it into in order to, so in other words, like I would say, like if you've got a heavily distorted amp, you know, that's like already dialed in for a metal tone or something, and then you plug in a fuzz and you expect it to sound good, it's probably not going to sound very good. Or if you plug a delay or reverb into that sound, it's just going to be like, whoa. So knowing what to plug, you know, if I've got like say a big muff style fuzz pedal, I know to plug it into a big fat round clean sound, and that's going to be the probably how I'm going to get the best out of it. Or whether to run certain pedals in the effect loop of an amp or in front, you know, just knowing those things is really important. And then beyond that, because they're really, having said that, there are no rules. So, you know, be willing to plug it in and spend some time just turning the knobs and stuff and see what comes out. That's the most fun thing for me.
Is it like all about experience? Like when you try and error, like trial
and error,
yeah,
right. Kind of, yeah. I mean, you learn so much through just doing, right? Yeah, you know, it's an interesting point that you make, actually. There's nothing like the experience of actually like playing with a real band and playing on the gig. So you can dial in your effects as much as you want by yourself, you know, but the trial and error of actually then getting out on a gig and going, oh, wait a minute, I can't hear the delay at all once the bass player and the drummer start. That's the kind of stuff where you just have to learn from the experience. And look, I always suggest actually for getting the best effect sound, certainly if you're going to be playing in a band context, you need to dial in the effects and the sounds while the band is playing, you know? And that's a huge thing. You know, how do you know how much delay you're going to need and where to set that mix control or where to set the tone control so it'll be bright enough to actually cut through until everybody's playing and it's in the mix with all the other instruments. So.
And yeah, I think you have like lots of experiences with the, you know, like the U.S. pedal makers. I mean, the rest of the world pedal makers. Any difference in quality, in sound quality, or?
Wouldn't say necessarily, no. You know, there's great pedals coming from all over the world these days. Maybe it didn't used to be that way, but now there's guitar passionate, like, you know, yourself. There's people in countries all over the world now that are so passionate about guitar that I think there's good stuff coming from everywhere. So, like, for instance, there's, I'll give some love to the Sinvertech company, which is pedals made in China.
In China?
Yeah, and they also have, what's the other brand? CKK is their other brand. This guy makes pedals that sound fantastic to me, and he's really passionate about it. But he's in China, and he'll send me his new. I mean, he's got some of the best distortion pedals. One called the Number 5, the Sinvertech Number 5. Incredible sounding distortion pedal, really versatile with all these switches, so you can get it to sound good through multiple different amps. He's got a reverb and delay pedal that sound fantastic. Another great manufacturer there's in Greece, Crazy Tube Circuits. I've never played a Crazy Tube Circuits pedal that wasn't just awesome. Like, they're all really inspiring to plug into and play. So there's guitar maniacs everywhere.
I know, I agree too. Yeah. And this one is, I think it's a really tough question. Amp modeling or stomp boxes?
Amp modeling or stomp boxes? I would say, you know, given the opportunity and the ability, I'm always happiest to be able to bring my own pedal board and my amplifier and everything. And with that said, you want to be able to do the job and, you know, be able to make the boss happy, whoever that may be. Maybe you're flying somewhere to do a gig or going to do a session somewhere and there's no budget to bring a bunch of stuff. So you've got to work within the confines of a lot of different things, right? Like, what's the most important thing? Is it the ultimate tone, or is it we've got some budget concerns with what we're going to do? And you have to balance all that out for every single thing that you're doing. And, you know, it's amazing. I mean, I'm using a Line 6 HX Effects, which is like a Line 6 Helix, using it here today and on my clinic tour. It's like a Line 6 Helix, but with no amp modeling, because of course I've got an amplifier.
Your amp,
yeah, it's a terrific device that really covers a huge range of tones. You know, it's a really great problem solver for musicians. It's so small, I throw it in my bag, it's just tiny, and that's kind of.
And the sound quality is right there too.
Yeah,
right?
As far as the quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds terrific.
Right.
It sounds great. Now, would I love to have my pedal board? I love my pedals because it's like you can reach down and turn the knob. It's right there.
Yeah.
They're modular. You know, no two are the same. They're like snowflakes. No two are the same.
Yeah.
You know, your pedal board is like a fun thing that you can.
Play with.
Yeah, we love them because it's like, you know, it's
like a toy.
Yeah, it's like, I'll take that pedal off this week and try this one, and then try that, and just having the knobs right there to turn is so. There's no escaping that. That's like just super fun, and it kind of seems to be for most guitar players, you know, probably the most preferable way to get their different sounds. But of course, this thing is small enough to fit on a pedal board. My buddy Steve Stevens uses this HX Effects on his pedal board. He's got a pedal board with the HX Effects for his time-based effects only, and then he's got all his gain boxes and stuff like that, and compressors and stuff on a different pedal board. So he's, you know, that's the thing. You don't have to use all this stuff like exclusively. And it's kind of neat. Like even on the HX Effects, it's got 2 effects loops built in, so you can patch in your favorite fuzz pedal. Or, you know, they're nice because they don't try and say, hey, let us be everything. Get rid of all your other stuff and just use us. It's like, no, this integrates with your rig. You know, that's why they've actually put amp channel switching on it, so I can use it with my PT15 amp, and it'll, you know, you can see on the front of the amplifier, if I'm changing, it's actually changing the impulse responses in the amp, and it's also changing the channels. So that thing's a great companion to my amp.
Yeah, the next question is about your gears and equipments too. I heard that now it's been a while that your signature guitar, the Thorn.
Yeah.
Tell me more about it.
Got it right here.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's been probably, I mean, it's crazy to me, but I think it's going on 5 years now, maybe 4 or 5 years that it's been my official signature model. It's crazy, time goes so fast. But
yeah, right.
Yeah. So the story behind the guitar is really, the Suhr folks had a model that they were doing for a little while called the Mahogany Deluxe. And I remember going out to their factory to make a video, and I didn't bring a guitar that day. And I said, that looks like a nice guitar, maybe I'll use that. And it was all mahogany with a maple top. So I wouldn't have thought on a guitar like this shape, S-style shape, 25.5-inch scale, that maybe a mahogany body and neck would be a great tonal combination. It's what we think of as being kind of Les Paul wood.
Yeah.
But it sounded so good, and I was like, whoa, sometimes you just don't know until you try, you know? So I ordered a guitar spec'd like that, which is the black guitar that I have with the red back. And this is, you know, before we ever talked about making a signature model. Yeah, and I had just developed the Humbucker pickups, humbucking pickup set with them, so I spec'd those and put those on there. And, you know, certain neck shape and frets and all that, and we built it up, and I loved it, and I ended up using that guitar a lot on tour for the next year.
You got 2 colors, right? The red one, 4 actually?
4 colors now.
Oh, yeah.
Black with a red back. There's a traditional kind of gold top, which looks like 57 gold top with black back, and you know the. I'm sorry. The gold top has a natural kind of back, like you would think of on like a dark stain natural back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, see through. And then on the 2 different versions of the guitar we've got with these kind of custom color metallic. The red one we call this garnet red, and it's got a black back and black neck.
This is nice.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Nice touch.
I think so. I love the look of the neck.
And the feel, right? The feel.
Oh, it feels so good.
Right, the satin finish is like, you know, it's placed like butter.
Yeah,
right?
it almost feels like raw wood.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's an ocean turquoise too, which is kind of like a bluish green. Yeah, so 4 colors, and the ocean turquoise has the black back and black neck as well. They told me when they did this neck, they said, you know, it might come out kind of gray. We don't know if you'll like it. And I said, let's just try it, and they did it. And I love it. It kind of almost reminds me of like it looks like carbon fiber or something.
Right, right.
And it's not. It's just a finished wood, and it's so smooth and just never gets sticky, and it's just
and your
awesome.
Pickups are like, it's so good.
Oh,
is it based on like a PAF kind of?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, totally. I love old PAF pickups and low output pickups in general. The reason is because I think when they made the original PAF pickups, they weren't really looking to make a really like loud or hot pickup. They were just looking for a quiet pickup.
Right.
So originally they were coming from the P90. It's a great sounding pickup with a lot of character and snarl and really good sound to it, you know. I think they were just trying to recreate that pickup essentially, but with a like similar output and similar sound, but with no hum. so
No.
quiet. So once the 70s rolled around, you know, you had people winding pickups hotter and hotter and hotter. And when you think about the times, there wasn't a lot of distortion or overdrive units. There was, you know, a couple fuzzes on the market, the fuzz face and the big muff. There was the color sound overdriver. There was, you know, Boss DS1 by 1977 or 78 or so. You know, the Tube Screamer came out, DOD overdrive. Like, that was kind of it. There wasn't much else out there. And amps didn't have a lot of gain. So, you know, super distortion and pickups like that, they were trying to drive the front end of the amp really hard because there just wasn't amps that did that, and there wasn't a ton of pedals that did that. So when you get now into these modern times, like, how many overdrives and distortions do you think there is in the world?
like 100,000 maybe?
Yeah, maybe 100,000, maybe 110,000.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and new ones coming out every day.
Every day, right.
Yeah, so for me, it's like the lower output humbuckers, which still aren't like, you know, they've got more juice than a single coil, you know, more output. They've got this character and this great sort of chimey top end and a lot of like kind of, I love that tone, you know, and when you wind them hotter and hotter and hotter, the hotter you go, you sort of seem to lose that character more, and you lose the ability to really play clean with them unless you roll way down on the volume. They just don't sound as, I don't know, they just don't have as much character, and you sort of like take away the inherent sort of wood tone of the guitar, I think, like the hotter you wind them. You get more of the sound of the pickup and less of the sound of the guitar breathing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and so why do that when you can just get more gain and more volume out of a pedal, or a clean boost or a treble booster or any one of the million overdrives out there? So that's the thinking behind the Thornbuckers. Great set of really, really balanced PAF style pickups. In the bridge, we use a different magnet actually than the one in the neck. And the reason is because it sounds a little warmer, and so it gives the bridge pickup a little bit of a rolled off top end, and the one in the neck is a little bit brighter, and so it gives it a little bit more clarity. So that's
this
nice,
is like,
you know?
Alnico 5 maybe?
That's right.
Alnico 5?
Yeah.
And this one is?
That's a 4.
4, okay.
Yeah, so slightly different tonal character, and what it ends up being is just super balanced, like all the way through the range of, you know, from all 3 positions of the neck, or the 2 together, or the bridge. The bridge isn't too bright, and the neck isn't too woolly and dark. And they're also pretty different in output. We've got 2 bridge models too, a plus model that's a little hotter than the standard one, if somebody wants a little bit more kick, so they can pick. And then on this guitar as well, there's a bunch of different split coil settings. So you can get like neck, when it's all the way up, it's actually just the neck single coil. We were talking about that earlier, but like I love that, you know, it's going to do that Hendrixy neck single coil sound, and this actually does a really, really commendable job of that tone. You know, I always say in the clinic I'll play some Stevie Ray Vaughan or something and say this guitar has no right to sound as much like that sound as it actually does. You can get really great single coil sounds, and then in this position it's actually these 2 inside coils split.
All right. Split.
Yeah, so kind of like maybe a telly in the middle position, or maybe sort of similar to a Strat in position 2 or 4, you know, it's got that kind of sound to it. And then last
other way back is like the humbucker.
Yeah, so that's the full bridge humbucker, that's full series 2 humbuckers, and this is the neck humbucker.
Oh, the neck humbucker.
Yeah, and now if I pull this, it actually puts this bridge pickup into parallel. So it's still humbucking, but parallel wiring, which gives you a big kind of like twangy single coil sound, but it's still humbucking. So
it's still humbucking. Very interesting.
So a lot of different tones.
Yes. Yeah. And the bridge is nice too.
This bridge is really special. Yeah, it's a new thing that we just started doing. We made a running change on the guitar. Some of the early ones have the original the Godot 510 bridge, which is a terrific bridge. Also, it's a great bridge. We moved to this one because it was available only recently, and I had to try it, and it just works amazingly well. It's got little locks that lock the strings in the saddles.
All right.
So it's actually got an Allen screw there. Once you string the guitar up, stretch out the strings and tune it up, you just tighten down that screw, and much like a Floyd Rose, you now have the string locked in the saddle.
Okay.
So you get this tuning stability where it's not slipping over the saddle as you're maybe dropping the bar, and getting that little bit of, you know, tuning weirdness that you can get as long as you
because you don't have the locking nut, right? So this is you don't need it.
You don't have it, but you really don't need it if you've got a nut that is. Let's see if I can get a little. You know, really great tuning stability from the. Right. It doesn't, you know. you've got the low E string and the G string. Those were always the bad culprits I found.
Right.
And if they're locked, they just stay in tune. So you need locking tuners and you need a good slippery nut on the guitar as well. But it really helps to keep the guitar in tune. So that's that, and it strings through the back just like a regular.
Right strat.
Yeah, you're not cutting the ball in.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, let me talk to you about your work. I think I heard that you worked with Chris Cornell before.
Yeah,
right.
True. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah, Chris. Let me see. I met him around 2007. It'd be early 2007, maybe February or March or something like that. And he was looking for a band to go on tour. He'd just come out of Audioslave.
Yes.
And he had done a solo album with Steve Lillywhite producing called Carry On. And he also had the title song from the Bond movie. I believe it was the first Bond movie with...
Daniel Craig?
Thank you, Daniel Craig as James
Daniel
Bond.
Craig.
Yeah, exactly. He had the title song from Casino Royale. So he was going out on tour to support all that. You know, he had that new single out, and he had a new solo album coming out. And so we did an audition, and I got the gig along with some other great guys that became great friends of mine. And we headed out that year and did about, I think between March and December, we were gone 7 months or something
touring.
like that of touring.
Yes.
Yeah, just constant touring, and then for the next couple of years after that as well. So we ended up playing over 300 shows. And it was a real amazing time in my life for music. But, you know, I'm a rock and roll guitar player, and so playing that great music. And he wanted to play music from his whole career. So Soundgarden, Audioslave, Temple of the Dog, and his solo material, as well as some fun covers and stuff that he did. So we got to do all that. And he became, you know, really like a great friend as well. So it was a really special time for me making music. You know, it's one thing to, I've played with a ton of people, and I've really enjoyed, you know, doing that. But when you find yourself in a position where you're playing this rock, like because I love hard rock and roll, so where you get to play that music and you get to do it kind of all over the world on a big stage, and with that guy singing, it's like, you know, nightly it'd be like, I can't believe I'm on the stage. This is amazing, like that I get to be here and play this music.
Yeah, it's like a dreams come true in a sense.
Exactly, like it's perfect, you know, in so many ways. And you know, you'd look over and we'd be playing Hyde Park, and there was Brian May on the side of the stage, or Jimmy Page had come see the show, and you could see him out there in the crowd, you know, watching you play. It's like, what? This is crazy.
You couldn't ask for more, right?
Couldn't ask for more. Yeah. And I really, really miss that time in those days, because it's just like, it was just so perfect. But things don't last forever, you know?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's the impermanence.
It's very sad, you know, seeing him pass.
Yeah, I had a dream about him last night.
Oh, really?
And it's a strange, yeah. He's the one person that sometimes, you know, where you have a dream and they come to you in dreams, and then they're there, and you're like, why are you here? You know, like, why are you? It's very confusing, you know, because then I'll wake up and one of those dreams again, you know. So it's hard, you know. It's a hard thing, but I'm still in touch with his, you know, family. And and the band guys. We still all, you know, stay in touch, and so it's a good thing, you know. But yeah, life's, you know, when you got a good thing going, you just try and live in the moment and appreciate it, because it ain't gonna last forever. Nothing does, right? So.
And how about your Pete Thorn 2 album?
Yeah.
There's a really nice riff and solos in the album. Yes, very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I put it out was it last year or 2018? I always forget what year I put it out. I think
2018 maybe?
I think it was a year ago, June. Yeah. And it's probably almost time for another one. But it's been a great experience for me putting out solo records.
It's really nice.
It's to have my own thing and get it out there. The next thing I got to do is get out on tour. You know, I have a plan to do another record. I think what I want to do is do like a song a month and release like singles.
Singles, yes.
Yeah, over like a 10-month period, and then maybe when I'm done all that, release it all.
Put in like a full album.
As a full album, and maybe with one bonus track.
Oh, right.
And the reason is because I feel like people these days, you know, they like it when you're out there all the time. If you release like 10 songs all together, like they don't have maybe the attention or the time, you know, to listen to the whole thing. And really, it seems like you'll put it out and it'll maybe fade after a couple weeks, like 3 weeks or a month, and you know, whereas maybe one song a month, and you're always out there.
Yeah.
Hey, he's got another song. He's got another song.
For like a year. Yeah, for like a year, right?
Yeah.
So you still in the scene for like a year.
Exactly.
Right. So how can we get them? Do you have like the iTunes store? Can we buy it from there, or
everything's
you have your own
available.
website?
Yeah, everything's available through iTunes. It's streaming on Apple Music. It's Pete Thorn 2 streaming on Spotify. I never put Guitar Nerd, my first album, on Spotify. We're available for streaming, but I guess I should. I should probably do that because I don't know why I'm fighting it anymore. It's a losing battle. Everybody wants to stream music, right? For a number of years now. So that's something I got to do. But so we'll see what the future holds. But I really want to do that idea of releasing a single once a month. Yeah.
What's the music you're listening to right now, or any artist?
I listen to? I think probably like my artist of the year has been Billie Eilish. Let's be honest. I listen to a lot of music that's not guitar based, but and Billie, like, to me, the story of her and her brother's amazing too. Phineas, he's an amazing producer and songwriter and everything. I mean, he co-writes all that material, obviously, but I love his songs and his singing as well. So I've been really inspired by them, because these are two kids essentially from Huntington Park in LA, kind of working class cool. It's actually kind of a hipster neighborhood now in LA, but living in a small house, and they make all that music in his bedroom.
Bedroom?
Where he's got a computer in front of him here, two keyboards on either side of him, and the bed's right here. She sits on the bed and sings. And that's how they've created all that music. And a #1 song in the country, absolutely massive artist that's touring. She's like a stadium artist.
What's the name again?
So Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish.
Yeah,
okay,
Billie Eilish,
I'll go check it out.
Yeah, she's incredible. I just think she's really like the songwriting's really mature for the lyrics, her lyrical concept. She writes a lot about dreams. And it's pretty deep, and I think kids are connecting with it on a really deep level. I saw she did the Coachella Music Festival in LA last year, and it was her first really big performance at something like that. So there was a big anticipation and buzz about the performance. And there was a bunch of other people on that day, some good artists and things like that. But you saw, kind of like pop artists up there with like great big light shows and dancers and the whole thing. And everybody's kind of watching, and it's like, okay. And, that whole thing. And then Billie came out, and it's just her and her brother and a drummer.
All right.
And with amazing video and stuff like that, because she's got some terrific videos and stuff. But when she came out, it was like the Beatles. Like the crowd was like,
and they went crazy, right?
Crying and these screaming and crying, and she comes out and she's like a little like bomb going off. She's all this energy, and it's super inspiring. It's like, whoa, she's connecting on a whole nother level. Like all these, the other artists that come out there with all the dancers and lights and huge show and production and stuff, and it's kind of like people are like, yeah, this is cool, but it doesn't have the power that she has on a raw emotional musical connection level with the people. So when I see that, I'm like, that's like Nirvana, that's like the Beatles, that's like any musical title shift where you see somebody connecting like that, where it kind of just takes over. So I really been inspired by, because they're so young. It's like she's like 18 now, maybe 17, 18. Yeah, and her brother's 22, and he's just like, all the music producers are like how does this guy do what he does? He's being interviewed by older, he's on Pensato's Place, these great shows on YouTube. There's a great interview with him, and everybody's like, how did you get that sound? How do you do that? because they all want to know, like, he's this kid really in a bedroom in LA making
music,
top music, and then,
in the charts.
Yeah. So that's like, okay, that's the guy that I want to know about. It's inspiring.
All right. Okay, Pete, any messages or like tips for the guitar player around the world? It's like what should be done or what should not be done?
#1 thing is to, I think, play with other people and listen. I see a lot of these amazing guitar players on YouTube and Instagram, and there's a lot of incredible stuff going on these days. And I actually wrote a magazine column I write every month for Premier Guitar in the US. And I wrote it this month on it's art, not sports.
It's art?
It's an art form, not a sport.
Okay.
So if you take some of these amazing new technical guitar players that have also done really well and are at the top of their game, let's say Vet Young from Covet or Matthias Asado, another Suhr endorser, Mark Lettieri. Terrific guitar players that are all technically ferocious, but they're also really musical, and their music's very melodic. There's still space in it, and they're good at playing with other players. They've all toured and played in bands and done things. Okay, that's the difference between, I think, some of the folks that I see on Instagram, YouTube, and stuff that are amazing technicians with all the chops, the sweep picking, all this stuff going on, you know, notes and notes, 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 so many notes. But put them in a band context, and I don't know how it's going to translate, right? So playing with other musicians, leaving space for the music, and leaving space for, you know, the bass player, or for the vocal, or for the, you know, that type of thing, and playing with rhythm. You know, playing with a drummer and locking in, like something like Mark Lettieri is so ferocious with his rhythmic. You know, Corey Wong. He's another one.
Yep.
These are guys that play in bands. They've got all the technique and chops in the world, but they're so great within the context of an ensemble, of a band. So that's the main thing. Like, don't you know, just play by yourself and get all this technical ability, and don't play with other people and just think that sort of, it's like a YouTube and Instagram and social media is not the be-all end-all goal, I don't think. It's like, that's just vehicles to get you out there so that you can then get on stage or in the studio with other players and make songs, make music, you know. So that would be the number one thing, I think, is like, don't forget the power of the song, the power of music, the power of rhythms, power of space in music, and letting the music breathe and listening to the other players. You know, it's not a contest or a sporting event. I go like this.
Yeah.
You know, you know, like the physical thing is great, and I think we all. I remember being 17 and being, you know, amazed that my hand can go so fast. Look at all these things it can do. You know.
Yeah.
But it was less about music and more about the physical ability that I was gaining. You know, it took a while for me to realize, like, hey, it's really about what you're saying.
We are trying to like convey, we're trying to like, right?
Music.
Yeah, it's music.
It's supposed to connect with people. You know, it's supposed to feel something. You know, not just like, whoa, that's impressive. You know, no. So it should connect. You mentioned Jeff Beck. Oh, sorry, somebody else mentioned Jeff Beck earlier. Yeah, Jeff Beck. You know, the connection, or the, you know, I've been using the example of like in instrumental rock of. So much delay going, but that simple, pretty little melody that Joe Satriani wrote in the late '80s, you know, and why that record sold so many millions of copies, multi-platinum, you know, and then he'd tour and play in front of 5,000 people a night. I mean, on an instrumental rock guitar album, that's incredible. He was playing songs. And the little melodies, you know, it's like that stuff that your grandmother can listen to, or your mother. It doesn't have to be things that are guitar, you know, guitar players, sure, but make music, you know.
Make music, yeah, right.
Make music, not sports.
Okay, you got the YouTube channel, which is like Pete Thorn.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, youtube.com/Pete Thorn, that's right.
Instagram? No?
Instagram is Pete Thorn Guitarist.
All right.
Yeah.
So I just ask you, in case like someone else who doesn't know you and want to follow you.
Please follow me.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Pete.
Hey, you bet.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
all
thanks,
right.
man. I really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
You guys.
โอเคครับ นี่ก็เป็นสัมภาษณ์นะฮะสัก 30-40 นาทีนะครับกับพีท ทอนการสัมภาษณ์นี้จะเกิดขึ้นไม่ได้เลยนะครับถ้าขาด Sweet Sound นะครับขอบคุณคุณพล Sweet Sound นะครับแล้วก็ Studio in Park นะครับที่เอื้อเฟื้อสถานที่ดูครับเทปหน้าเราจะสัมภาษณ์ใครอีกครับวันนี้ผมออสลาไปก่อนครับสวัสดีครับ